in the spirit of that networking is a contact sport, I'll echo what John Wooden says is one of his greatest lines is this: you haven't lived a perfect day until you've done something for another person who could never repay you. And I think that's kind of been my life's mantra. That's the theme behind networking as a contact sport.
Professionals. The Leads to Growth podcast with the National Association of Sales Professionals provides in-depth discussions sharing the best sales, prospecting, influence, and communication skills, as well as sales training techniques to take your professional sales career to the next level.
Hello and welcome back to another Leads to Growth podcast from NASP. I am honored, a little giddy even, to have this gentleman here on our podcast. I'm not gonna lie, Joe. I had no idea who you were until I was reached out to by your guys, and then I got an opportunity to read this book, and I haven't been able to put it down. Joe, great to see you, man. Thanks for joining us.
Chris, thank you. I'm honored, humbled, and grateful to be on your great show. Thank you.
Awesome. So for those of you who do not know, let me tell you a little bit about Joe before we get rolling here. Joe Sweeney has spent more than 30 years blending his life, his love of business and passion for sports. He has owned and operated and sold 4 manufacturing companies, headed up the Wisconsin Sports Authority, and founded and ran SMG, a sports marketing and management firm that represented coaches, athletes, including, yes, this guy, 3-time MVP NFL Brett Favre. This guy put me through a lot of tears as a Lions fan growing up, Joe. Joe then purchased equity interest in an investment banking firm and served as president and managing director. He is now an accomplished author, internationally known speaker, and investment private equities companies. Joe's passion is studying human behavior. A lot in common with you, Joe, here. He has used the fields of sports, business, and military as his laboratory to better understand certain people, how certain people outperform others. He's especially devoted to helping mentoring young athletes, executives, develop their aspects of their career, business, and life. Joe has served on 28 board of directors over the past 30 years and is currently active in the University of Notre Dame Graduate Alumni Board, the Mendoza College of Business, Town Bank, and Wintrust Financial Corporation. Joe is a networking animal, and his book is called Networking is a Contact Sport. Joe, we lost you. You still there, Joe? Joe, I guess he didn't like his intro.
Hey, I loved it. I loved it.
All right.
I loved it.
Just making sure.
Yeah.
Awesome, Joe. Well, man, Joe, this is really great to have you as we just got through your awesome bio here. Joe, tell us how you came to become a New York Times bestseller on telling the world how to network.
Well, Chris, if you had 7 hours and 7 beers, I could give you the detailed story, but we only have 30 or 40 minutes. But I think the real key thing of this is I think it really comes back to family of origin. And just a kind of a quick story is when my parents got married, they wanted to have a baby girl and name her Mary. So my parents popped out 9 straight boys, and the 10th was finally a girl named Mary. True story. And so I just want to say I didn't learn networking in school. I didn't do symposiums and to learn networking. I learned networking growing up in a large Irish Catholic family of 12 people. And just a kind of a little visual for your audience, as kind of what was Joe's childhood like. Well, when I grew up, we had one part of our house had 3 tiny bedrooms, 1 large dormitory-sized bathroom that had 3 sinks, 2 toilets, and 2 showers. Privacy wasn't a big deal in our house, and 9 rambunctious boys. Chris, some of my earliest childhood memories, I used to wake up with 2, 3, 4 brothers in bed with me. It was a typical Irish Catholic family. In fact, I don't think I slept alone until I got married. So I think the key thing is, where did you learn networking? I learned that if you were going to be self-centered and self-focused, you weren't going to survive in this thing called organized chaos, which was our family. And so I learned at a young age that if you were going to be effective, you had to watch out and network and help your brothers get what they want in life, which is really the foundation of the book, Networking is a Contact Sport. It's really not about networking as much as it is helping other people. And Chris, I got to be honest with you. I wrote this book, this New York Times selling book on networking, and I hate networking. I hate what it's about. I hate what it represents. Because, Chris, most of your audience, when they hear the word networking, they think of an alpha male chasing you down at a cocktail party with their business card. In fact, this book is the complete opposite. And the real secret of great networking is a place you go to give and serve and not get. So the purpose of the book is to get people to reframe what networking is and what it's about. And if you can do this, this is really about business development. And this can take your sales business, which is our audience, from transactional to transformational. And if you get good at this, you'll never work another day in your life. I guarantee it.
Mm. I love that. I love that. When I was reading the closing of your book, I think that one of the first points that you had mentioned there was relationships make the world go round. And I just love this concept. Most people look to value assets, and they forget that these relationships are our most valuable assets. In the book, you talk about the difference between networking and not working, right? Just that one letter.
Right.
What do people have to remember about the value of relationships as they go through life?
Well, here's what I think, Chris. I really think, and I don't care what you do, if you're in sales, if you're running a company, I think really the quality of your business and the quality of your life is really based on the quality of your relationships. And the quality of those relationships are really based on how effectively you can connect and network with others. And I just think it's the most important thing in life. Is really to network and connect and to build those relationships. And the book is really about how to do it. I mean, I tell stories, I try to tee up concepts, but at the end, your audience always are asking this: Joe, Chris, show me and tell me how to do it. Give me some tools for this so I can move the needle in both my personal and my professional life.
I completely agree. And I think you make a very beautiful distinction between get and give in here. And I think, people are often just, yeah, I get it. Just let me know what I need to have in order to get this contact, in order to get this deal, in order to get this relationship. And I see a concept throughout your entire book, which is out there seeking to add value, out there seeking to give and to help people, as opposed to just get that business or get that business card or that network. Now, where did you learn this? Because now this is, as you see, it's not a misconception that people think networking is one way. It's because a lot of people out there are networking that way. They learn that from a lot of bad people, a lot of bad habits out there. Where did you pick up this idea of adding value in business? I mean, how did you translate it from home to business?
That is a great story. And I think, Chris, anytime you write a book about experiences in your life, it's like going through major therapy for a year. You kind of dig into all your experiences and you ask yourself, what did that experience mean? What did it teach me? Well, my aha moment that really set the foundation of this book, and to answer your question directly, happened when I was 8 years old. I just mentioned I had 8 older brothers. I'm the 9th boy. I'm the runt of the Irish Catholic litter. And there's a book out, Chris, and I speak on this a lot. The book is called Birth Order. Do you have kids, Chris?
I do not. I have a few nieces and nephews, which I'm super proud uncle of.
Okay, but if anyone who has kids, or look at your nieces and nephews, the book Birth Order talks about characteristics of the oldest, middle, youngest child. It's a phenomenal book, and it's scary because it's so right on and so accurate. But they talk a lot about the youngest child. I'm the youngest child in my family. And if you read all the research on youngest children, people say, they're bitching all the time because they don't get enough attention and all that. But usually, youngest children get the most attention. Mm-hmm. What youngest children want is to find meaning and to be taken seriously in a family. Just because they're the youngest, they're not as mature as the other people. And quite honestly, that was my biggest hang up. So my aha moment happened in when I was 8 years old. And as I said, I had 8 older brothers. At the time, I had 3 of them that were at the University of Notre Dame. 2 were in the seminary studying to become a Catholic priest. And my 3rd brother, Tim, was a walk-on football player for this legendary football coach at the time, Ara Parsegian. At the time, Ara Parsegian was the best coach in America. He was on every sports magazine cover, every football magazine cover, and he transcended the sport because he made the cover of Time magazine in 1966. So growing up in a large Irish Catholic family, this guy was as close to the Pope as you could get. So in the winter of 1966, my dad took the whole crew down to Notre Dame. And one day we were swimming at the Newt Rockne Center. And I came out, I was the first one out of the locker room, and I looked up on the wall, Chris, and I saw the guy's name, Ara Parsegian. And I can't tell you to this day what compelled me, but I sprinted up the stairs and knocked on this legendary coach's door to get an appointment. And the reason I wanted an appointment is my brother Tim was a walk-on quarterback. And that means that he didn't have a scholarship, but if he had a good freshman year, he'd get a scholarship. And in the course of this meeting, I asked this legendary coach, Chris, I'm 8 years old at the time, will you give my brother a scholarship? And he kind of smirked and laughed. I came downstairs. My older brother said, Joe, where the hell were you? We've been looking for you. We were ready to call the campus police. I said, I was up talking to Coach Parsegian. They said, yeah, right. What were you talking to him about? I said, I was negotiating a scholarship for my brother Tim. They all laughed. And I said, you don't believe me? Come on up. So I took all my brothers up, introduced them to this coach. But here's the aha moment. And this is the answer to your question. As we were walking back to the seminary, all my brothers were high-fiving me, Chris, because it was the first time in my life I was making a significant contribution to the family. And it was because I was networking for somebody else to help them get what they wanted. Now, fast forward 6 weeks, Tim did get the scholarship. I'd like to think it was because I was a good negotiator, but he was a really good football player. So the whole message of this point of networking as a contact sport, it's really how staying connected and serving others will help grow your business, expand your influence, or even land your next job. So the whole purpose of the book is to get us to reframe what networking is. And you have a lot of people listening and say, oh, God, Chris, I hate my job. I don't like doing this. If we can teach your listeners how to network more effectively, they will really learn to enjoy their job. And it's really kind of a mindset change about what networking, sales, and business development is all about.
I absolutely love what you're saying, Joe. And it's really, getting that opportunity to have the giving be rewarded, right? And feeling and experiencing that fulfillment that your networking brought to your family. Having that opportunity to get those little victories. Where we're doing something for somebody else and seeing the joy and seeing the victory on them and seeing the fulfillment that they go through. That's enough to bring you through to the next one. And I love that. What was so there's so many people out there right now that are like, oh yeah, but you have it in you, Joe. You just walked up to people and you just got it in you. What do you say to these people that think that, well, I'm just not a networker. I just don't have that skill?
No. First of all, like any skill, it can be worked on and developed. And I've written 3 books, Chris, and they all have a similar theme through them. I'm working on my 4th right now. But when people say that, well, I can't do what you do, Joe. You know what? I can't do what Tom Brady does either. But that doesn't mean I can't learn and study his tools and pick up some snippets from what Tom Brady and LeBron James and certain people do that I admire and respect. But all of us can be trained. When someone says, Chris, to me, oh, I just have a bad memory, I say, stop. You just have an untrained memory. When people say, I can't network, I don't, you know what? The book is filled with stories, but more importantly, it's filled with tools to help people move the needle. And once they try things, they say, my God, I never thought I could do that, which is the thing that on human behavior that excites me. And part of my life's mission is to get people to do things they never thought they could do. And these books and my speaking and training really creates a forum for me to be able to execute on my life's mission. So, so when people say, I can't do this, I said, hey, give me 30 days with you and I can help change certain things that you never thought you could do. And more importantly in this, Chris, I think this isn't a list of how-tos and this is really about a mindset and a life change. And what I try to do is to get people to reframe some of the things we've been taught, some things we've been classically conditioned to do. And when people say, oh, I'm too old to learn new tricks, I say that's the biggest bunch of BS. You're never too old for anything. Think about this. Colonel Sanders at 66, at the time, most people were dead at 66. He started Kentucky Fried Chicken. Michelangelo at 83, he lived to be 87, redesigned all of the architecture in the Vatican at 83. Most people say, I'm too old. There are a lot of guys in their 90s that are running the Boston Marathon. Mm-hmm. You're not supposed to do that in your 90s because you're supposed to be dead, right? I'm too old. So I do a whole thing when I speak about overcoming excuses. Mm-hmm. And excuses are really nothing but lies. And the greatest book on this, Chris, and I was going to suggest all your listeners get it, but they don't have to get it because I'll explain the book in 27 seconds. But the book, Excuses Be Gone, was written by Wayne Dyer. And Wayne Dyer did something so good. When he wrote this book, he sent out thousands of surveys and asked people for their excuses of why they don't take action. Came back with 10,000 and charted the top 18. You just mentioned some. I'm too old. I'm too young. I don't have the energy. It will create family drama. The number one excuse in networking is number 17 out of 18 in Wayne Dyer's list. I'm too busy. And so if you can understand networking and do it right, you'll realize you do it all the time. Whether you're at a grocery store, whether you're at your kid's Little League game. And it's not like you're chasing people around with your business card, but it's asking good questions. It's connecting with people. And I got to tell you, Chris, some of the greatest business opportunities I've had in 35 years are from experiences I've had where I'm coaching my kids' basketball team, or people I bumped into at the coffee shop or grocery store. Because for 20 years, Chris, one of my non-negotiables, every day, I buy coffee for somebody behind me. And I've done it with certain people who had no idea who I was or why I did it, that have turned into $15,000 and $20,000 and $25,000 speaking gigs. But here's the key. I don't buy people coffee or buy people lunch so I can get something. I've just been blessed and I've got an abundance of so many things in my life. And the more that I channel that and give it away, people say you do nice things, it comes back tenfold. I think that's not right. I've done nice things for people and it's come back 100,000 times fold. And I've got examples and numbers of things where it's happened. And again, I'm just a simple guy. I'm not overly smart. I'm not overly talented. But the book is really about some of the experience I've had for I always say I'm kind of a dumb Irish Catholic kid from the Midwest. Some of my friends say that's redundant, but it's really, I've been able to do some, I think, pretty cool things in my life. And it's not because I'm smart. It's not because I'm overly talented. It's because I've developed a philosophy from a young age that the more I can do for other people, the more it'll come back. And Chris, I'll tell you, that's counterintuitive to everything we're taught. Chris, you got to get your own, or someone else is going to get it. And I, like you, believe, Chris, we live in an abundant universe. There's more than enough for all of us. And the more we can channel and spread, the more it comes back to us. And I think I'm kind of a living example of it.
I love it, Joe. I love it. You are a beautiful example of really focusing on the being. There's so many books out there that talk about the doing and the strategy in those different areas, which are important. And if you don't have the proper intent, if you don't have the proper mindset, if you don't have the proper beliefs up front, all those strategies, you can throw them by the wayside. They're not going to be effective at all. There are some great networking strategies out there, some great tools that you can use through psychology, and all of those will be completely negated if you are going out there to get and not to give and to add value. And so that's one thing I really, really love about the book, is that you constantly come back to that foundation. Joe, you talk about setting a goal, and you talk about these big, hairy, audacious goals in your book, which I love this term. Tell me about. You've got Jack Canfield, who wrote the intro on the book here. I'm sorry, Bob Costas, and then Jack Canfield wrote the lead in, and then you talked about landing Brett Favre as having him as a dream client first, and then landing him or having him as a dream contact, I would say. And then landing them in a business in which maybe you had never even stepped foot before. Tell me about this process. How do you one, how do you land something so big like that? How do you go through all the hard times with that big goal? And then how do you get to that? How do you connect with people like that?
That's a great question. I'll try to answer that as succinctly as I can, and I'm not really sure because by asking the question, my mind goes in about 7 areas to answer it,
It's a
Chris.
pretty vague question, so go ahead and answer whatever your heart desires.
Yeah. But I think, Chris, I think first of all, the key is most of us don't hit the pause button in life and go in the locker room and think about, like a football team, where are we? How do we do the first 2 quarters? Can we readjust? My third book is called After Further Review, and it's based on an NFL. It's 13 or 14 what I think are the most important spiritual concepts. But because I can't write a book like that, I have no credibility. I'm not a priest. I'm not a rabbi. I'm just kind of a sports business guy with an occasional potty mouth. I don't have the credentials to do that. So I used a form that people know me, kind of through like sports agent, football. So the whole idea, and to kind of get back to your point, how do you manifest these things? I think number one, like a football team, you've got to go in the locker room and get quiet. We're not trained for that because, Chris, what do we tell people? Chris, how are you? Oh, I'm so busy. I'm so big. Like it's some big freaking badge of honor that you're so busy, Chris. But once you go in the locker room and get quiet, you start thinking about what's really important in my life. And people talk about setting goals and all this. I think a better term than that is manifestation. How do you manifest things in your life? How do you create a dream life? How do you accomplish things? And I read a lot of different people, but I'm quoting the same author twice. Wayne Dyer also wrote a book called Wishes Fulfilled. And again, you guys don't have to read it because I'll summarize it in one term. He said, and this is the answer to your question, his whole book can be summed up in one line: wishes fulfilled. Make your future dream a present fact by assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. I'm going to say that again because I think it's really important. Make your future dream a present fact by assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. So I think anytime you create the big, wild, audacious goal, you can say, I want to do this, I want to do that. What I do is I go to that spot that I already have it. And I'll use a materialistic one just to give an example. Chris, if you wanted to drive a blue BMW 750, whatever, instead of saying, oh, I'd like to do it. Assume the feeling of what it would be like to drive in that baby blue or that dark blue BMW 750. Go inside that, smell the leather, feel the leather on the steering wheel, and get into that space. Because what will happen, all the brain research has shown us, Chris, that it's almost like a magnet. You become magnetically attached to that. Now, this is just a thing, and people can understand things better than concepts. But if you want to be president of a company, assume that feeling. You start acting that way. You start walking that way. You start, if that's what you're really called to do, the universe will align to create that for you. But many times, here's what I found out. We want to climb up that ladder. And many times we get to the top of the ladder and we realize, oh crap, we're on the wrong house. So I think by going into that locker room, you asked how I was able to accomplish these things. I go into the locker room, I say, okay, what is it I really want to accomplish? Or what is missing in my life? Or what would turn me on beyond description? And I go to that place and I sit in that. My kids are all grown. I had 4 kids. They're all grown. But I have space now because I'm not chasing 4 kids in 6 years. So I take a lot of quiet time. People think I'm out networking, busy all the time. I do that. But the reason I've been able to have energy at this stage of my life, I feel like I'm 18 years old, Chris. It's really because I get quiet every day. It's a non-negotiable. And I assume that feeling of the wish fulfilled of what it is I want to do between now and the time I leave this earth. And and here's the other thing. I think it's true with your listeners. It's true in sales. The older we get, I think we need to become more intentional about what it is we want to do in our lives. Because most of us, Chris, you see it all the time. We put it on cruise control and we just kind of cruise through life. We retire, take a couple cruises, play with our grandkids and die. Now, I'm not criticizing that if that's what our listeners want to do. I have nothing against that. But if that's all you wanted in life, they wouldn't be listening to your program, Chris.
Amen, Joe. Amen. Life is about, and even just sitting there, it doesn't mean you're not going to get any challenges. You're just not going to get the ones that are going to bring you to where you want to go. Life is all about the challenges that come to us every day. And the sooner you can embrace those and not let them throw you off every time that they come, you expect them, you're able to get through them much more gracefully, much more beautifully, and get towards the place that you actually want to go. And I love what you said there. Visualization, taking time, and it's like meditation. I do meditation now. We just did a little call about it recently, and I do meditation and visualization together. And what happens is things will start to go good in my life. Start to pick up. Things will start to happen. What do? I'm so busy, I can't do that anymore. I don't have time to do the vision. I don't have time to do that little stuff to slow down. I got to take care of this action that's happening now, right? And then I get a little off track.
Chris, you mentioned something really great about tools and the to-do list and all that. I do a lot of coaching with people. And one of the things with really busy people, I force them, and I'm anal as heck about this, I force them to create a not to-do list.
Ooh.
Well, people say, I got to do this, I got to do this. And I give a lot of homework at my coaching sessions. I do a lot of training and all that. But what I tell people as part of the homework is create a not to do list. People, and I find people are so busy, but I think they're sloppy busy. They're doing a lot of things that don't matter. They're trying to put the holes in the dikes or fill the holes in the dikes of things that really aren't that important.
Absolutely.
And I do a lot of coaching for teams and that type of thing. And people talk about winning and, we got to win. You got to go get mentally tough, go and win. Most people don't understand what that means. And a guy who wrote the foreword for my third book is Lou Holtz, the football book. He's awesome. But when he talks about winning, it's really about a matter of focus. And he says the greatest winners in life is people who've been able to focus on the word. What's important now? And sometimes we get so scattered with things we think are important that aren't really that important. Absolutely. And so I think one of the things, if you really want to move the needle in both your personal and professional life, I think you got to go in the locker room, get quiet, and figure out what's important now.
I love that. I just got done reading recently The One Thing. Great book, and really just talks about how focus on what's the one thing that I can do today that will make everything else on my to-do list either irrelevant or not needing to do anymore because I got these things done, and it's that focus. I love that reminder, Joe. Before we go, you've given us some awesome value here, and I really appreciate it. I would love to see what are some action items? What are some things that people can do right away to help them either change the mindset or just to be more effective in networking or just to have more fun in networking?
Okay, I'll give you three quick things. I'll do them as quickly as I can, Chris. Number one,
do them good. Don't do them fast. We got time.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. I'm trying to be sensitive.
We got time for you. No, we got time for you too.
Okay. Well, the first thing is anytime people in sales, they say, how do I break in? How do I network? This is a very simple thing. And by the way, Chris, everything I say is really simple. It's not always easy. Like losing weight's really simple. You just exercise more and you eat less. But if it were so easy, we wouldn't have a third of our population obese.
Agreed.
So everything in networking is simple. It's not always easy. The first thing is really your ability, I think, to get a deeper, closer connection with people. And that's about asking good questions and listening. And I have a whole series on this, but the conclusion of this series is this. If you really want to connect with people, find out something personal about them, then do something memorable. And you don't have to spend tons of money. I mean, I'm a nut about guitar. I've owned a dozen guitars. I've ended up giving like 8 of them away for people who want to learn how to play and all that. But you don't have to spend money. I'm sort of a whack job in certain areas, Chris. But for example, let's just make this up, Chris. If I wanted to make a deep emotional connection, I call it a PEC, a personal emotional connection. And you and I did this podcast. And let's just say I found out you liked Egyptian art, just a small thing. It came up in the conversation.
Yeah.
I'd send you a thank you note. And then for no money, I could Google cool Egyptian art photos, put it in the thank you note. And I bet nobody has sent you a thank you note and then and did something that resonated with something you liked. You find something personal, do something memorable, people will never forget you.
Absolutely.
Just a simple tool for the salespeople, and I speak on this in every talk, and people forget this. Let's say, Chris, I wanted to connect with you, and let's say that you just started yoga. Let's just say, do you know, Chris, for $12 a year, $1 a month, I could send you a subscription to Yoga Magazine. And once a month, Chris, when that came, I'd tell you I did it. That would come and you would think of me. And let's say I was in the sales world. You may not want to buy from me today or tomorrow, but 8 months from now, maybe you just fired your financial advisor and the Yoga Magazine came and said, God, that Sweeney guy, I got to call him. That's a simple tool. Costs you $12 a year, $1 a month, a third of the cost or quarter of the cost of a Starbucks coffee that you can connect with people. The other thing, I think we all need a system. Everyone in sales, I think, needs a system. And a lot of companies create their own system. But Chris, I've done a system for 30 years. And I tell you, it works. I call it my 5-10-15 plan. And the 5-10-15 plan is this. I have 5 meetings a day, 10 written correspondence, and a minimum of 15 phone calls. And before your listeners roll their eyes, let me chunk it down to make it manageable. Right. And I write this down every day. 5 meetings a day. People say, oh, Joe, are you smoking crack cocaine? We can't do that 5 times a day. I want our listeners to reframe what a meeting is. A meeting or an encounter is anything that moves the needle. So let's say, Chris, I'm trying to get into Wintrust Bank. How do I get into Wintrust Bank? Well, you and I might be at the drinking fountain, and I share that with you, and you say, you know, my uncle's the executive vice president of Wintrust Bank. Why don't you call him? Chris, that took 7 seconds. That's a meeting. Yeah. I bet if our listeners review their day, they'll have 30, 40, 50 meetings. I'm saying just do 5. Yeah. Then what I do is I do 10 written correspondence. I have a envelope or a postcard with my name on it. And my ritual every morning when I come to work, I'm involved in a lot of things. I read newspapers, industry magazine, trade publications. And Chris, if I see that down in Austin, your niece was just second team all conference soccer, I know this sounds weird, but it works. Stay with me. I'll cut out that piece. I'll staple it to my Joe Sweeney postcard and say, Chris, congrats on your niece. I know this means a lot to you. I'll see you 2 months from now. You'll come and hug me at an event and say, Joe, you're the only one that took the time to do that and wrote me a handwritten, heartfelt note. I mean, and people say, I don't have time to do 10 of those a day. It takes me 12 to 14 minutes in the morning. And then I make a minimum of 15 phone calls. Some days I do 50 or 60 phone calls. And the key of a phone call is at the end. I don't care how many you make, but always say at the end, Chris, if there's anything I can do for you or your family, let me know. And so, again, I don't care if you do a 5-10-15 plan or a 3-6-9 or a 2-4-6, but I think it's critical to create a system, not only to be accountable to your sales manager or to your company, but to be accountable to yourself. Chris, how many times on a Friday afternoon have you driven home and said, what the hell have I done this week? When you do the 5-10-15 plan, think about this. It's 30 touch points a day. It's 600 a month. That's 7,200 in a year. In over 30 years, it's 2,000, 1,200, 684. Not that I've counted, but I have, Chris. So I'll go to a networking event and people will say, my God, Sweeney, you knew everyone at the event. How come? It's because of the 5-10-15 plan that I've done.
Love it.
So I think that's a system. And it might sound overwhelming at first, but if you chunk it down and you say, hey, I'm just going to do a 1-2-3 program today. At least just create a system. And this is fun for me. I don't grind it out. I don't say, oh, I hate doing the 5-10. It's exciting. It's a challenge. And Chris, I've had a lot of interns at our companies. And a lot of them will spend a day with me. And what I do at noontime, when I'm in town and I'm not traveling, I said, come on, we're going to go for a walk at noontime and we're going to have 5 meetings. They said, what? 5 encounters. So I go to 4 or 5 different spots. I just walk around with the interns. And because I'm involved in a lot of things, I'm able to make connections. And I mean, I'm not selling anything.
Right.
But sometimes you're out of sight, out of mind. And the interns will say, my God, we made 8 great connections at lunch, just walking around. Now, not everybody can do that or wants to do that, but it's just rituals that I've really established over 35 years to stay connected.
I love it. The first point, ask great questions and listen, right? How often do we ask a question and then as they start to answer, we're already thinking about the next question or how we're going to respond to their answer without even listening to the gold that they're about to give us, which is uncovering those problems which we're looking to solve. Then number 2, go ahead.
No, what you say asking, just to chunk this down for our listeners, really, it's just not asking. It's asking creatively. It's asking persistently. It's asking outside the box. And sometimes, and most importantly, can you create asking to make it fun? And if you can figure out how to make asking fun, again, you'll never work another day in your life.
I love that. And then having a system to be accountable to, something that allows you to be accountable to yourself and to measure your results. I love it all, Joe. Man, thanks so much. This is some great stuff, some great action items. And then also you made a habit out of networking. You just made a habit out of doing it. These are just 3 ask good questions, have a system, and develop a habit out of networking.
Yeah.
That's gold.
I think, Chris, if I could end with one comment.
Please.
This guy has been my mentor. I've read 40 books about him and his life. Coach at UCLA by the name of John Wooden. Everybody thinks he's a great basketball coach, but he was probably a better teacher and philosopher. And he said a quote, and I've got his picture here in my office. I've got it at home next to my bed and in my home office. And in the spirit of that networking is a contact sport, I'll echo what John Wooden says is one of his greatest lines is this: you haven't lived a perfect day until you've done something for another person who could never repay you. And I think that's kind of been my life's mantra. That's the theme behind networking as a contact sport. And it's just not selling more or networking more. It's really how do we serve others? Because if we can help people get what they want in life, we'll get everything we need and more.
My man. Joe, you are a master at your trade, and the world is a better place because you're here, man. Really, really appreciate the time that you spent with us today.
I'm more than grateful. Thank you for having me.
My man. Before I let you go, joesweeney.com/playbook is where you can download a free copy of Joe's networking playbook. And networking is a contact sport. joesweeney.com. You can find him. Joe, anywhere else people should look for you?
Yeah. Well, if this half hour or 40 minutes has interested your listeners, we are introducing a deluxe online networking course. And we just talked about, the asking and the listening. This is a deep dive. And again, Chris, I don't know what I've given, 600-700 talks over the last 7-8 years. I can't remember how many, but it's been a lot. Mm-hmm. And most times when I speak, people say, that's really good. You covered a lot of things in an hour keynote. Do you have something more where I can dig deeper? And so Matt Morris and Tyler, and you know them both, nice guys on a national, incredible marketing company. We've videoed the last few weeks, and we have a 16-series course on networking as a contact sport. Extremely inexpensive, but it really will help your listeners dig deeply, and we'll go in depth on the concepts to help them move the needle in their networking and their business development. It's really a fun series.
Awesome, Joe. We'll have to catch up a little bit more, talk about how we can support you in that program a little bit more here in the future, okay?
Awesome. And let me know whatever I can do for you. And I know you've got 3 really cool divisions that you guys have set up, and you're launching this. And if I can help you and your cohorts on your journey, that's why I'm here.
Awesome. We've got a national event coming up. Should be announced here in the coming months. We should definitely talk about that, Joe. We'd love to have you on stage for that.
Okay, I'm more than honored. I'd be more than honored.
Awesome. So this is Joe Sweeney. Networking is a contact sport. I love it. I got nothing else to say. Joe's been awesome. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for following. Make sure that you go to iTunes and subscribe to the Leads to Growth podcast. We've got some great guests coming up. We've had some great guests in the past already. Go check the backlog. And don't forget to check out NASP.com. Become a member today. What are you waiting for? Thanks, Joe. Have a great day.
Thanks, Chris.
We'll see you all listeners very soon.